In the previous tutorial, we learned how to use Infigo data within Metabase to create a question and obtain some data in a format that we desire. This tutorial covers a very similar process. However, instead of the final data displaying either a table of values or a single value, we'll instead see how we can choose between a range of different visualization types, such as pie charts, bar graphs, line graphs, and other things like that. So we'll start off by creating a new question and formatting the data we want within that question. I'll go new question. As with before, we need to choose the data sets that we want to utilize to formulate this question. We've got previous saved questions, so if you want to reference previous data sets that you've already formatted, or we can just go directly for our raw data. That will take us to a list of data tables that we have available from our database, and then we're just going to select the relevant entry, which in my case, as we're still making something to do with order data, will just be the order table. As in the previous tutorial, we're going to refine the data set to only display data from one storefront on our platform. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Filters, search for my relevant field I want to filter by, which in my case is Storefront ID, and then enter the relevant filtering data. So with the current configuration, the question will potentially return quite a lot of order data. So we see we've got a lot of different columns, a few different orders. We could potentially have hundreds or thousands of entries in here, which may be way more data than we require. The Summarize feature allows us to simplify provided data and view it in a much more user-friendly way. So in our case, we'll take the total column data from the order data table, and we'll ask it to merge the total of any orders that were done on the same day. So just to clarify what that is, I can scroll across to the created dates, and what we want it to do is to merge these so that it's summing all of the order totals that occurred in the same day. So I'm going to go and summarize sum of total, which is our relevant column. Now, if we left it like this, it would likely give us a result of a single value, the same as we saw in the previous tutorial. However, we don't want to do that. As we said, we want to filter it by day and group them by day. So we can do this with this second section here, which is to pick a column to group by. If I go through there and search for created date, it's automatically merged it by week, but we can merge it by a different time frame as it recognizes it as a date and time input. So it could be minute, hour, day, quarter, year, whatever you wanted. In this case, I'll do day. And now what we'll find, if I click visualize, it's still using that same refined data set, but because it's refined it down to a particular level where Metabase thinks it's suitable for displaying on a graph, it's automatically showing us that in a graph or a plot format. If you do want to still see the data as a table, you can get to this by clicking these toggle icons at the bottom of your screen. There we go, we can see the relevant data, created date, and sum of total. The Metabase system will display the data in the way it deems most useful. And this could be as a table, a graph, or other visualization means. Our example question has resulted in the data being displayed as a line chart. And this is showing us a sum of total on the y-axis for each of the days that an order was taken. And this is a very useful data set given our chosen data that we want to display. It is possible to change the visualization being used with a range of plots available for selection. We get to these by clicking on visualization down at the bottom left. That will show us a panel on the Metabase screen where the visualization type can be changed. Now, whilst you can select any type within here, all invalid chart types based on the current data are grayed out, as you can see here. And then all of the active ones, it will be able to display in some shape or form. So let's try out a couple of alternative visualizations here. I could do it as a bar chart, the same data in a different format. I could do it as a pie chart. And for the sake of our example and the way we want to display this data, I'm going to leave it as a bar chart. Now, each visualization type has different display settings, allowing you to control the appearance of that particular plot. Whilst these are different for each type of plot, they operate in a very similar and very user-friendly way. So altering the display settings will be demonstrated on the bar plot that we're showing here. And whilst this provides almost the exact format of data we require, we can tidy this plot up somewhat if we want to do so. So to actually modify the appearance of this plot, I'm just going to go to Settings at the bottom of our screen. That will open up a tab on the left-hand side where we'll have various relevant tabs available. So one is allowing us to change the data that's being utilized on this plot. We have display options, so that allows us to put things like trend lines. We can put values on there as well if we wish to do so. And we've got an axes section. So if we want to change the labeling, if we want to make the text that's being utilized a bit more compact or user-friendly, those kind of options might be on the axis screen. So for example, if I want to change the name of the y-axis, I can locate the y-axis section and just change the name. On the x-axis, I might not want a date at all. I can do that. And then within the data section, where we can choose the data we want to utilize, we can also modify how the data we've chosen is being displayed. So you'll see at the moment that we've got our green bars up here, a very limited data set. However, we can change the color that's being utilized, for example. We've got various different bits of formatting or styling information just to change how that particular plot appears. Okay, once we're finished modifying the visuals of our chart, we can click on Done. Data displayed on these charts can be altered in numerous ways without necessarily having to go back to the question specification screen. So for example, at the bottom of the screen here, you can see that based on what we chose in the initial filtering, it's showing me data from all time, and it's showing it by day. We can also change the scale of the x-axis. So let's say week, for example. For any larger scale data changes, you may need to hit the Run button to refresh the data that's being displayed. Okay, once you have the correct data in your desired format, we can save this question for later use, just with the Save button up on the top right. Enter the relevant data, select the collection in which you want to save this particular question, and then click Save. As we saw in the previous tutorial, you do have the ability to add immediately to a dashboard, but this will be controlled in a later tutorial.